I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Jeff.
Thanks, Phil, and good morning, everyone. We'll shift gears a little bit and look outside and around us here, starting with a review of the last week, and Manny mentioned this, at least in some locations, and actually quite a few locations in the southern half of lower Michigan, we finally got some meaningful precipitation. And on the right-hand side here, you can see many areas got picked up 1 to 2 inches. It's also important to note, though, that there were spots, especially in the southern tier of counties across lower Michigan, that just, it's sometimes amazing when you look at that radar and see what appears to be a promising thunderstorm or a promising area of rainfall come and split or dissipate. A lot of that happened, unfortunately, late last week in that southern area. So we still have areas of southern lower Michigan, especially, that remain unfavorably dry at this point in time. And of course, it's late in the season, but at least for some spots, we did pick up some meaningful precip. Temperature-wise, depending on where you were, on the left-hand side here, are mean temperatures for the previous week ranging from a degree or two cooler than normal. We haven't seen a lot of that this growing season, but you can see that up in central and western upper Michigan, to 2, 3, 4 degrees Fahrenheit above normal across the southern lower peninsula. And that's been the predominant pattern during much of the growing season. I would like to also go back and look one more time here at the Drought Monitor, which did change noticeably last week. If you remember the issuance before this, we had virtually no drought or abnormally dry conditions in Michigan. It expanded again last week up to about 35% or so of the state, including a little bit of D1 or moderate drought. Of course, we don't want to see that, but it did. That certainly, I think, was more reflective and maybe not even enough of the dryness that, again, Manny talked about that has developed over much of the southern half, especially of lower Michigan, and especially on well-drained, coarse-textured soils. That's where you can easily see a lot of the stress that's occurred during this year. One other thing I'd like to point out here, too, as we look at the drought monitor, and again, this reflects conditions as of last week, but Michigan is on the northern and eastern fringe of this area of dryness. You can see a lot of it just to our south across northern Ohio and Indiana westward, but I wanted to, in particular, go out to the western Corn Belt, and there are areas, and especially west central Iowa, that have seen severe drought conditions this year, and they've actually got some D3 extreme. They're bordering even on almost on D4, which is something fortunately we don't see in the Midwest very often. But there are areas in the Corn Belt, especially in Iowa, that have really had problems with dryness. Certainly, what's considered to be the most severe drought or significant drought they've had in that part of the region since 2012. And of course, that was a bad year for almost all the Midwest. And on top of that, of course, we had the big derecho event, thunderstorm, 140-mile-per-hour winds in some cases on the 10th of August that has caused massive damage. That's still being assessed as we speak, but one recent estimate had 3.5 million acres just in Iowa alone of corn and 2.5 million acres of soybeans that have been severely damaged. That's just by the derecho, and of course on top of that we have drought issues and some drought damage as well. So this is obviously, the reason I bring this up, it's obviously having an impact on certainly production potential this year and on price. It's something to keep an eye on here. It's already happened, but the losses are really being tabulated by the day, and boy, it's going to be tough for some of those folks that have corn laying on the ground. Some of it's been declared a total loss and it's being destroyed. Others, the growers are going to have to get out there and try their best to pick some of it off the ground, but it's a difficult situation in that part of the region. So again, we don't have to look very far away from Michigan to see conditions probably worse than they are here. Moving ahead here, degree day totals here, seasonal accumulations for the year with the above normal temperatures, not surprisingly, are above, and Manny also mentioned this. In most of the state, and you can see the largest departures here above normal are in central and southern parts of the state, a little bit less as you go north, but about 1 to 200 units at this point in time as of the beginning of September. And so if you think right now, most of our totals here, this is beginning May 1, most of those totals are on the order of about 2,000 base 50 degree day units. So it's somewhere on the order of 5 to 10% above normal. But that's important because it also it improves the chances or increases the likelihood that this crop is definitely going to make it to physiological maturity here before we have any problems with colder weather. A huge contrast with last year when we were up against the clock to try to get crops done. But this year we're not only, well, we're ahead of normal, and the forecast is going to enter into this as we look at it, because what we're looking at is certainly more of a fall-like weather pattern setting up across the Great Lakes. That's what I've got here this morning. This is the weather map as of 8 o'clock this morning, and we have an unusually strong low-pressure system here just north of Lake Superior. That's again, typically this time of the year we don't see that. In the wintertime, yes, but not so much early December. You can see a lot of black solid lines around here. Those are isobars, or lines of equal pressure, and the more of those you have packed in, the stronger the winds. And so one word to describe our weather conditions here today, and it's not yet in many areas because it's still just after sunrise, but once we get into the middle to latter part of the morning, and especially this afternoon and evening, it is going to be very, very windy. Here in the warm sector of this system, winds out of the southwest, 20 to 30. We'll probably see some gusts over 40 miles per hour here, especially again in the PM hours. Also, as you go north, there will be an increasing likelihood that there'll be a few showers as this cold front, that's the next feature to come through the state, or will move through here later today. And again, if you're in the UP or the northern lower, you probably will see some light rain or showers with this, windy showers, but not expecting any heavy rain with this, maybe a tenth or two of an inch or less where it occurs. And the coverage will gradually be less and less too as you go south. I think the southern few tiers of counties probably will not see anything other than a windy, warm day. That's the other thing too. Large range in temperatures across the state today, from the upper 60s far north to probably the mid 80s. And so today will likely also be the warmest day of the upcoming week, because we're looking at an upper air pattern change occurring here over the next couple days. Here's the forecast. You can see how quickly that system moved off to our east by 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. High pressure here over the middle of the continent, in the middle of the U.S., with still another lingering trough moving through northern parts of the state. There will be some lingering, and we could call it scattered at best, probably isolated chance for some light showers across northern parts of the state. It'll be dry, central and south, but significantly cooler than it is today. And so our high temperatures over most of the state will be dropping about 10 degrees tomorrow and continue at those levels here into the upcoming weekend and probably into next week as well. Here's the outlook for Saturday morning. You can see not many changes, fair, dry, and relatively cool temperatures. So again, for highs and lows, most of the state, we're talking about low, mid 70s during the daytime, lows into the 50s south, and into the 40s in the north. There will be up on the far north, a couple of these days will probably struggle a little bit to get out of the, out of the 60s, but high temperatures, probably low 60s limited. So a much, much cooler type of weather pattern that at least we're moving into. In terms of rainfall after today, next best chances for anything significant not coming for most of us until Sunday. But then after that, at Sunday, it's looking like a fairly active week next week with more frequent chances for rainfall, probably Monday as well, and then lingering on into maybe Tuesday, and then at least one, possibly two more weather systems during the week next week. So next week looks like cool, active, and wet. There's a little bit of some of the most recent forecast guidance we have suggests there might be a little bit of a delay. Another reinforcing shot of cold air has been forecast to arrive around Labor Day, the early part of next week. That might take a little bit longer in getting here than the original guidance or the earlier guidance has suggested. But still, overall, we're looking at the development of a fairly large troughing feature across the middle of North America, and that's what's leading to this change. Precipitation totals, at least the potential totals here through next Thursday morning, high variability across the state, ranging from almost nothing in the southeastern corner of the state to more than 1.5 inches in the far north. So a lot of this too, if we look at this, especially these heavier totals up here in the northern part of the state. That's what's expected to fall here at the end of the weekend and into next week. So that's not what we're looking at right now. Again, only light precipitation expected in the short term. Most of this would be coming next week. But as you can see, large difference from north to south. Potential evapotranspiration rates, given the cooler temperatures, will be on the decline, ranging from just about 1/10 of an inch on average per day in the far northern parts of the state to about 14 or maybe 15 hundredths of an inch. So we'll be a little bit less than normal for the early part of September to get cooler temperatures. And then moving into the medium range forecast guidance, I talked about the pattern change. Well, you can see that here. This is the 8 to 14 day outlook. Lots of commonality, similarity between 6 to 10 day and 8 to 14 day. But you can see the big trough over the middle of the country, west. That's bad news, of course, for the West Coast. More heat and dryness expected there, problems with wildfires. This is not a good forecast for them. But for us here in the Midwest, definitely pushing temperatures down below normal, and you can see that on the upper right. The other interesting thing is for precipitation, or regarding precipitation, and that is Michigan sort of right along the storm track, but looking at wetter than normal conditions to our south and east, and then drier than normal conditions to our west. And this is playing a major role here, at least in the forecast for September, which earlier, we talked about this last week, the forecast had come out with expectations of warmer than normal mean temperatures, and then that equal odds scenario, no forecast direction for precipitation. Well, there's been a change. We had an update at the end of the month. They have an updated version of the 30-day or the 1-month outlook, and you can see for guess what, this pattern change that we're seeing right now is expected now to last longer than had been thought earlier. And as a result of that, now we're moved to a normal to below normal or cooler than normal temperatures for the month. Precipitation, you can see also expectations for some drier weather. So we don't frequently see this much of a change in that update, but in this particular month and this forecast, no question, it has definitely changed just in a matter of about a week or 10 days. So somewhat different expectations. Beyond that, still, again, the forecast officially still looking at warmer than normal mean temperatures for the remainder of the fall with no direction on precipitation. So summarizing here quickly, a windy day today and warm, especially in the summer-like in the south with some showers north. We'll probably see those showers develop here by the middle of the day, and then again in the north and in the central parts of the state with the frontal passage, but they should be over by this evening. And then after the cold front goes through, well, wind shift around to the northwest, and still windy but significantly cooler for tomorrow, and then on into the weekend, into early next week. Next chance for precip for most of the state after today, not until the end of the weekend and early next week. And as we just saw, the medium range forecast guides is still pointing us in that cooler and at least initially wetter than normal, but then probably drying off. There's also, and I didn't talk about this, but right now the guidance also suggests that by the middle of September that there would be some de-amplification of that upper air pattern, and that should result in some moderation of temperatures, maybe back towards at least normal, if not warmer than normal, by that maybe the third week of the month. So look for a change. Right now, that's the idea that we'll see another change by that time frame. And with that, I'll move on with a reminder for next week, and that's the schedule says that that will be our last virtual breakfast here next Thursday, the 10th, and our speaker is Dr. Kurt Thalen, who's going to be talking about industrial hemp. So don't miss that one. That's a week from this morning. And with that, I'll wrap up and send it back here to Phil with a couple of odds and ends here.
All right. Thank you very much, Jeff.